Thundercloud, or TC, is an item exclusive to Kart Wii, and hopefully it will stay that way.
Man, this video needs an upgrade. The Thundercloud is the Thundercloud is the most frustrating item in Mario Kart Wii. I'd go as far as to say it's the worst item ever made within the series. Many people within this community would agree with that, like the civil human beings they are. However, there are a few people in this community who actually defend this shitty item, which is almost like defending Nintendo putting over full price remasters of their best games. Like, really? People within this community argue over this item a lot. So once again, as this was the first video topic on my channel, I'm going to explain the common criticisms of the Thundercloud, the defenses of the Thundercloud, even though they're weak as fuck, the alternative options that were made for this item, and my overall thoughts about it. Before we dive into this, I feel like we need to recap what this item does for those who aren't familiar with it. The Thundercloud, or TC as most like to call it, is a cloud that floats above the player's heads and will shock you down to the size of a pebble within a few seconds. It's the only item in the game that'll automatically activate if you pull it from the item roulette. There are many ways to avoid getting punished by this item: passing it to another player, entering a cannon, getting a star, getting a mega mushroom, getting a bullet bill, getting that godlike Japanese internet, unplugging a Wii. Needless to say, there are multiple ways to avoid getting punished by this item. This item also increases the speed of your vehicle by a small amount, enough for you to drive on the off-road with ease. Alright, recap over. So what makes this item so frustrating is that it's too punishing. In fact, any item that punishes you just for hitting the item box is fucking stupid. It completely defeats the purpose of the game. In a 12-player room, the possible spots to pull the TC are from 3rd to 8th. Now, unless my math here is wrong, 1, 2, oh that's right. That's half the room, with 5th to 8th being mid to lower positions. Players in the 5th to 8th positions are already struggling to catch up during the races. Throwing a TC over their heads isn't going to help them. It's even worse in a 2-player room. Whoever ends up taking the effects of the TC in this scenario normally loses automatically. The whole point of these item boxes is to help players advance their way to the best position they can get. Shrooms helping you take off-road shortcuts, the bananas being a great offensive and defensive tool, the blue shell preventing first place from breaking away from the pack. The TC doesn't do that. You pull it, hope to God that you can avoid it, then punishes you if you couldn't. If you're one of those people who defend this item, then fine. We all have our different takes and opinions we're willing to die on a hill for, but you can't deny, no matter how you try and spin this item doesn't help the player in the grand scheme of things. In fact, I doubt this was the developer's intention while they were designing it. It's pretty much a joker card of an item. The main defense I see people throw around for this item is that the TC punishes players who spam their items. Now, this is a defense that is and smells like bullshit to me for a few reasons. 1. You can still get a TC regardless of how much item spam you're doing throughout a race. Hell, there are times where players can still get a TC from the very first item box set as soon as the race starts, after you get shot, and can even chain a TC after taking the effects of another one you just had. It rarely happens, but trust me, you can chain 2 TCs in a row in this game. Also, if it really does punish people for spamming their items, which it doesn't, why isn't it possible to pull it in all positions instead of just 3rd through 8th? Legit, what's stopping 12th place from spamming every star, bullet, and shock they get? Not this fucking item, that's for sure. What's stopping 1st and 2nd place from back spamming every item they get? The TC? Nah. I mean, one could simply say to hit them with some shells, but you're missing the point. The TC isn't going to punish these people in these positions because there's no way a player can pull a TC in these positions in a 12-player room. Most players spam their items a lot during the races anyways, especially if they're trying to get a certain item or it's the final stretch during the race. 2. If this item was to truly punish the player who's spamming their items, why are there so many methods to avoid it altogether? Remember what I said about how to avoid getting punished by this item? Like, in what world does anyone think that this item punishes people who spam when the game gives so many alternatives to get out of the punishment? It's like someone getting arrested, but they flirt with the cop enough to the point where they can get off scot-free. I mean, I'm not too sure if black people can get away with that shit, but the point is, what sense does that make? Oh right, 0, 3. I know I said this earlier, but it needs to be further explained. Players spam their items regardless. I've seen people spam all 3 of their green shells just to try and hit one other player. People spamming their triple shrooms hoping to get a star to dodge the shock. Even the golden, an item that's all about spamming the item button to get the most speed from it, players spam as well. I've seen people during Mogi events complain about item spam, especially if that shit is a free-for-all, and been in calls where my clanmates warn me about the other team spamming their items. Item spam spam is just a common action within this game, casual or competitive. If the TC really did punish players for spamming, the developers of this game would have arranged it in a way where it actually does. Not some bullshit where the game normally pulls nonsense like, oh, you keep spamming your shrooms? Here's a star feed, buddy, and a shot dodge, and first place. Would you like $1,000 as well? If you just look into these defenses for more than 10 seconds, they fall apart. Do you know what else takes about 10 seconds or even less than that? Hitting that like button if you're enjoying this video. I said earlier that one of the methods to avoid the punishment of the TC is to pass it to another player. If this was normal offline play, then you could do that no problem. However, the majority of the Mario Kart Wii community plays this game online. And the servers of this game aren't the best. See where I'm going with this? Resulting in players having trouble passing the TC due to the average to below average servers of WiiFi. Still better than the Switch's online servers. Got me f***ed up if you think I'm paying $50 a year for this. No wonder people want to pirate your games. The online lag in this game is just a whole nother beast. Someone on your screen might not be in the same place as theirs. You think you passed the TC when really the player you tried passing it to wasn't in the spot you thought they were in, and it just comes back to you like a boomerang. If you thought that was bad, trust me, we're just getting started with this whack nonsense. There are times where a player has a TC and is nowhere near you, but somehow, by the grace of the Mario Kart Wii gods, they pass the TC to you anyways. Seriously, they could be 6 feet away on some social distancing type shit, and they still somehow pass the TC to you. What the fuck? Okay, fucking whack nonsense. He was even like an inch from me. Like, what the fuck? Now, there are other items in this game that can act out of the ordinary when it comes to online play. Being able to hit multiple people with one green shell, a blue shell splitting into two, players repeatedly bumping into you even though you have revolving shells, as if they're immune to getting punished by them, 2 or more people getting the same grinded shroom or star. This is just a result of items being used in online play. However, in the case of the Thundercloud, because of the item's ridiculous and dumb features, mixed in with the online servers of this game, it makes this item even more difficult to deal with. Not to mention that in most cases, players are too far behind or ahead for you to even pass the TC. It's even worse on tracks that are scaled so large like most of the CTs in this pack. Yeah, you can cut off some off-road to catch up and pass it to someone, but not every track has off-road or good off-road shortcuts. And stopping just to try and catch someone from far behind isn't going to be much better either, because you risk not successfully passing the item, thus losing more time in the race than not doing this option at all. And if that wasn't enough, there's a radar for the TC to alert other players. Like, fuck me, the devs of this game might as well added bells and whistles with giant arrows surrounding the player. Trying to pass the TC online is a bigger issue than it is when you look through all the factors surrounding it. That is until a few years ago, Mr. Bean decided to modify the TC in a couple of ways. One change he made to it was making the TC into a Mega TC. If you get a Mega TC, you get shot into a Mega Mushroom instead of being shot into a little pebble like normal. Another change being made was that instead of the TC automatically activating once you pull it, it sits in your inventory until you, the player, are ready to use it. Even though these two features can only be done through friend rooms, they're great solutions compared to the normal effects of the TC, in my opinion. These solutions aren't without their criticisms though. Many people within the community, especially on the competitive side, aren't a fan of Mega TCs. The general reason being is because they think the item is too broken in a game where damn near everything is broken. Just keep that in mind for a second. For years, people in the competitive scene have debated whether or not Mega TC should be allowed. So much so that in Mogi Lounge, it's one of the banned suggestions when you go to make a suggestion in that server. This item is the most hated item within the whole community. A good majority of players have expressed how much they hate it. No other item even comes close to the amount of hate the TC gets. I bet this item gets more hate in this community than Mario Kart 8 Deluxe does as a game. Gets more hate than Mushroom Peaks does as a track. Okay, I don't know about that one. I mean, to me, they're both pretty shit, but Peaks is like 1,000 times worse than the TC is as an item. But I'm getting sidetracked. The second someone creates a solution for it, most of the competitive players just go, nah, it's too busted, it's too busted, it shouldn't be allowed, as they attempt one of the many busted shortcuts in this game. If you couldn't already tell, I'm all for Mega TCs. Now, that's not to say I don't think the item isn't broken, and I somewhat get why most people in the competitive scene want this item to stay banned. But, and this is a huge but, this game is already busted as it is. Now, I'm not stupid. I went to high school, I did my 4 years, I got that diploma. Shouts out to class of 2018. As busted as this game is, there needs to be some level of restriction when playing this game competitively. That being said, even when this game in a competitive setting is at its most restricted settings, Mop Bike and Flame Runner only, My Stuff folder off, Thundercloud Autofire normal, Thundercloud effect normal, Room Encryption on, CTGP on. Even with all these settings coming into play in a competitive setting or any setting, this game is still busted. The Mach Bike and Flame Runner being the two most broken vehicles in the game alongside the characters that ride them due to their speed stats. The tracks within the game, even when you ban the illegal glitches and shortcuts they have, they're still busted. BC3, DK Summit, Mushroom Gorge, Dry Ruins, BC Wii, Grumble Volcano. And that's just barely scratching the surface compared to the loads of whack shortcuts CTs have. Even the very items we use are busted. The Shock being the most powerful item in the game. So powerful that in the right circumstances can grant the player a top position. So powerful that it's the sole reason why bagging is a thing for clan wars. The blue shell having no cooldown whatsoever. There can be like 5 blues within one lap. Like what? What? The bomb being overpowered as fuck. It activates automatically if someone drops it behind them when other players are nearby. Red shells are easily avoidable just by taking the corners tight. The bullet bill being way too punishing if you get hit by it. I'm not trying to say that the Mega TC isn't busted. However, compared to the items, tracks, and overall physics in this game and how they function, I doubt the Mega TC will be a huge problem if that shit was legal in competitive play. In fact, I think it would fit right in with how busted this game is. Players also like to make the argument that this item can't be allowed in competitive play because it's not in the vanilla-based version of this game. Now, unless my eyes are playing tricks with me, bear with me please, I don't really wear my glasses a lot nowadays. We play on CTGP, a modded version of Mario Kart Wii. Yeah, vanilla my ass. Even if you want to put in the fact that we must play on CTGP to prevent hackers, what's the excuse for being able to edit your friend rooms? Having the battle glitch toggle where it lets you see other players' tags from a far distance. Or in the case of custom tracks, another aspect that isn't vanilla to Mario Kart Wii, having me heads on the minimap or having draggable blue shells. Last time I checked, none of these features are part of the vanilla based version of this game. Yes. Vanilla. Most players act like if this item was allowed in competitive play that it would be game breaking. Is the Mega TC really busted to the point where it shouldn't be allowed in competitive play? Well, I don't know. Seriously, I don't know. Which leads me to this point right here. On paper, I think Mega TCs wouldn't be that game breaking. I say on paper because there's been no sort of results of this item being used in practice within a competitive setting. A large portion of players in the competitive scene like to immediately dismiss Mega TCs to be allowed because of the reasons I said before. However, how can someone dismiss an item when there's been no actual test or results of it being done within the format it's being suggested in? Many players just like to look at videos and streams of the Mega TC being used in friend rooms and base their results off that, which is completely unfair. All I'm saying is that this item should at least be given the proper trial before coming to a final conclusion. I'm talking about a test run on the level of like a whole season of CTL or MKPS or the World Cup, or maybe even within Mogi Lounge for both CTs and regs. Then, after players have been exposed to Mega TCs for a good amount of time, the staff members could gather up the community's general opinions about how everyone feels about the item and then decides if it should stay or go back on the ban list. Saying it should be banned in competitive play just by looking at someone's friend room in a video is illogical. Saying it should be banned because we need to be true to the base version of this game contradicts the other features that are allowed in competitive play. I still think if this item were to go through the proper and fair trial it gets, it wouldn't be that busted, because to me, there's no item in this game that's broken to the point where it gives you great results. It's not the item that gives you great results, it's how you use that item and how well you play with it. But hey, I could be completely wrong on that. We'll never know until this item gets a proper test run within the competitive scene, if it ever does. So what are your thoughts about the Thundercloud? Do you hate it? Of course you do. Who doesn't hate this fucking item? Should this item be allowed in competitive play? Do you think this item should at least be given a proper test run in competitive play? Tell me in the comment section below. Like, subscribe, and hit that bell if you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day.